Okay.
Okay, so you are Jamie Morton.
I am indeed
So
the Jamie Morton.
You're currently a senior designer at Ubisoft Düsseldorf. So where you were at Ubisoft, where were you previously?
So before Düsseldorf, I was at Ubisoft Abu Dhabi.
So what was your role there, Jamie? So really, I was just going to say, just give us a bit of history about how you started in the industry and, you know, how you've got to the position you're in today.
Okay, so back many years ago, yes. So from pretty much leaving school, I got a job at Core Design. So as people may know, obviously the lovely studio behind the Tomb Raider series. So when I joined Core at 17, I think it was, I started first in QA, like testing the games for a number of years, including, I think, was the first 2 Tomb Raider games. I was in QA at that time. And then I was promoted to level design, to be level design on Tomb Raider 3. So that was my first level design job, I guess.
You were QA on Tomb Raider 1? I didn't know that. So what was that like? As in, did you get a lot of stress off Toby? Or?
It was okay actually. It was fun finding big flaws in the level design at times. Right. That was nice. I think it was the level with the Midas hand.
Right. Yeah.
There was at some point I went a way I shouldn't have gone, or what you're not meant to go.
Yeah.
And I think I cut out like 3/4 of the level, and it's like, oh, how have you got there? Like that shouldn't be possible. It's like, well, yeah, I just jumped up there, and I ended up here. But now, obviously, I don't know what to do because I'm supposed to be doing this thing, I think, but I can't get there anymore. It's like, that's just like a massive bug, and I'll fix that right now. It was just genuinely surprised. Toby was genuinely surprised that there was such a flaw. I think there's such a flaw in the level, that is like
that's
it's like
point.
It's perfect, that kind of is funny. Yeah.
But on 3, I'm not going to keep talking about Tomb Raider, but I wanted to. It was on 3. I always remember that at the start of 3, could we not jump sideways and then jump out of the level? Remember, there was some big. Everyone was going mad about it. I think Adrian discovered it, and it was out on. It shipped, didn't it? With you just did a side jump and then you finished the level.
Oh yes, yeah. You could do some weird side jump. Yeah, I don't know if that was because of. Was it maybe because of in Tomb Raider 3? Was it we added the angles?
Yeah.
Like before everything was flat. And all the ground was flat, and obviously the walls were flat. And then we added triangles, so we could get like some interesting geometry.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. I know the angles created some issues of generally like if it was over a certain degree, you would slide down as you meant to because it's like a slope. But because of the triangles, like it used to like really mess up a lot, and then you would get forced through the geometry and fall out of the world and all those kind of things. You have to like constantly tweak all those triangles to be at the right angle because you still wanted them.
Yeah.
But shallow enough where you wouldn't slide. Yeah. And so it still looks good. And like the triangles are cool, but also a pain.
Hey, Jim, I've interrupted your history. So you finished Tomb Raider on Tomb Raider 4 or?
Yeah, Tomb Raider 4, and then at some point I did what was the name of my life? It was a Game Boy Advanced.
Yeah.
Game.
Yeah.
So I think there was. I'm not sure if that was for the Game Boy Advance. There was one Tomb Raider like platformer game released. I think it might have been for the Advance as well. And then there was a sequel. So I was, I guess, like the main designer on that because it was a very small team, like maybe 4 of us. Myself and 2 artists, I think, animator and programmer. Yeah, 5.
So when I wasn't
2
there,
programmers, 6 people, I think.
You had, because I left and came back to call, but you just the smart one, was it, or there was some? Yeah, so you made a game of your own concept, which is quite weird for a company like Core. Because I came back and we never really talked about it, but it's just so how did that happen?
Yes, I think after the Tomb Raider game, and then I moved on to um, Thunderhawk. So Thunderhawk was like the series of games what Core Design did in the past. First for like the Mega CD, I think. Then the first PlayStation, and I think that was, I guess, for PlayStation 2, the last of the Thunderhawk. And then um, in amongst that, uh, uh, Core Design, obviously there were some big changes within the company here, like with Core Design and IDOS kind of parting ways and all of this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
So Smart Bomb came about. It was kind of a pitch from Andy Norman,
Oh right, okay.
who was obviously with like IDOS, and then he was kind of acting as like main producer at Core Design and stuff like that. So basically, yeah, that's when we just wanted to put a team together, and I guess I was available, and so then
Cool.
I became like the main design on that. So that was kind of cool, just with it being obviously like new
IP.
handheld technology with the PSP.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, that was interesting, yeah. And at the same time, I guess another team started to make free running
Yeah, I was going to say
as well,
because
which
I
was
came back at
also,
free running. Yeah,
I think that was also PSP, right? I think it was PSP as well at
it was
at the
console
time.
as well.
Yeah.
What was the challenges of PSP as in from it? Because I can't remember. I can remember the Vita. I just sold the Vita. But boring fact. Selling just sold the Vita on eBay. I was going to keep it, for future students, and I thought, do you know what? I haven't used it in like 6 years, so I thought I'm just going to sell it. But so the Vita, I used to see students designing because it's got the back plate and it's got a camera and it's got a microphone, so you can talk to it and you can use the back
Yes.
plate. And, I mean, it was, you could design some amazing stuff, and then obviously nobody ever bought it, so consequently, that was killed. But what was the PSP? What was the issues with any issues with the PSP? Or?
Um, Not as I remember. I think it was pretty decent console. There was one issue which not necessarily for like development wise. It was just the ergonomics of the actual console. Like it still had like the two like sticks, like the
Right.
dual shock like sticks, like the analog sticks. And I think one of them, or maybe it was both of them, they were positioned really low down on the console.
Oh, right.
So
Okay.
you like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it
yeah.
was pretty expensive. This thing, I think it was like 600, 800 quid to
Really?
buy.
God.
It was pretty expensive. So you were holding this very expensive piece of hardware very precariously, like because just you had to position your fingers and thumb obviously to use the sticks,
Yeah, yeah.
which were really low down on the bottom edge of it. So you like the grip was really awkward.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't nice for your hand at some point. You like you could feel that your hands were aching because you were
Right. Yeah, yeah,
maybe gripping it a bit too much, like too much pressure, just because one you
yeah.
didn't
Because
want
it
to
was eight
drop
hundred
it. I think
pounds.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like if I drop this thing, it's like yeah, great game over.
Mortgage. Yeah.
Um, but I do remember though at the same time because I think it was around that time the DS had just been released as well. So when we were developing Smart Bomb, there was many times where myself and obviously the rest of the team was like, man, this would be so cool on the DS because you've obviously got
Yeah.
like the cool little stylus,
Yep.
so you'd be able to do lots of cool like little touch gestures with the stylus to like like cut wires or you like move like little
That'd be great.
tools around and stuff like that. And obviously we had the PSP with the analog sticks and more traditional kind of like console control. Um, so for some things, we could have had a bit more like like fidelity in the control.
So what?
If we had the DS version, so we just kind of dreamed it's like, this would be cool on the DS because of all these cool
but could you
touch
not?
screen capabilities.
Yeah. But would they not allow you to port it across? I mean, because I know Nintendo's like a walled garden, but what was the issues? I can't remember what the issues were with pitching games to Nintendo. Would they just not have accepted it?
Yeah, I think at the time, I don't think they were. I think they wanted it as if it was going to be this year, like a PSP exclusive thing, and
Right.
yeah, I think it was something like that. I don't think they. I'm not sure if they were at the time looking to like develop stuff for the DS, but I think at the time, at least, I think for Smart Bomb or their initial games, maybe in general for IDOS, I think
Yeah.
it was like exclusive for PSP.
Certainly, because
And
it
all
always
this.
been Sony, hasn't it? Because of Tomb Raider. So what? How did you get into? How did you move over to? Because I'm skipping quickly past Rogue Warrior and Shawshank 2. How did you get into Ubisoft? So you went. Where were you first? Oh yeah, sorry. You went out to you went to Ubisoft after.
Yeah,
Rogue
so I was
Warrior.
actually a studio before Ubisoft.
Oh
So
right. Okay.
basically, to fill in some extra history, I guess, with core design. So of course, core design was still part of IDOS, even though the company kind of been split in half, and Circle Studios were formed by
Oh yeah.
the previous owner of core design, Jeremy Smith. And at some point, IDOS sold core design to SCI.
Sales Curve Interactive. Yeah.
Yep, who were their own game publisher. And then at some point, we became part of Rebellion. So SCI, if I remember correctly, I think then basically sold Core Design, and we became part of Rebellion, which is the studio in Oxford.
Yeah.
And then so we became no longer Core Design, we became Rebellion Derby. And then at some point, yes, after Shell Shock and Rogue Warrior, the studio basically was closed.
I think Rogue Warrior sold 7 units.
Maybe 6.5. Someone broke the disc in half.
I was supposed to be like lead multiplayer designer or something. I remember, but basically as soon as the game launched, they closed the service within an hour. But they didn't, but it was close enough. I mean, I think it had like 7 players in the first 3 months.
I remember Rogue Warrior though. I thought it was cool at the time. I don't know, we got the fact that we had Mickey Rourke doing the voice. I found that just bizarre. It's like Mickey Rourke. You've seen him in pretty awesome films, in his younger days as well, and a few obviously when he was older as well. But it's like, oh wow, it's like, yeah, I think it was Rogue Warrior after the Wrestler movie.
I think it was just after, and that's why they
Yeah, and so it's like he's.
But he didn't record
in that movie. That was getting massive rave reviews and award ceremony contention and all this kind of thing, And it's like, oh man, we have got Mickey Rourke for our game. That is nuts,
I'm not. Sorry, Jamie. I'm not ignoring you. I'm trying to find a quote for you about Rogue Warrior. Hang on. But he never actually. All right, here we go. So here we go. Which game was referred to as completely bankrupt of any value whatsoever by IGN?
Yeah.
Rogue Warrior, yeah. He never actually recorded any new dialogue though, did he? It was just all the stuff that they'd previously recorded for other games, and we were trying to. That was the pitch for the game, wasn't it?
Interesting.
Yeah. So they had this dialogue. I think the wrestler came out, and then they basically said make a game out of Mickey Rourke's dialogue, and a lot of it was insane. If you remember the rap,
I do remember. I didn't. Maybe I just forgot. I didn't realize that. Yeah, it was just made up from piecing together past dialogue as such.
He did a recording session, for some first-person shooter, and then we that was the point of the game. So after that, then you
yes,
you go on.
So Code Design closed, and then at that time, I got a job at Spellbound Entertainment, which is based in the south of Germany. So I was actually in Germany before. And Spellbound Unfortunately, after a year, they ran into some financial difficulties. So they still exist, but they became BFG, so Black Forest Games.
All right.
So they're still going. The project I was working on there, like before I left, was Gianna Sisters Twisted Dreams. So they had done an old game, Gianna Sisters. So it's, I guess, kind of like a Super Mario Brothers clone. But I think at the time it did very well for them. It's like one of their very, very early games. So they've actually been around for quite a few years. I guess around the same age as like Core Design or something like that. Like a pretty old studio. But yeah, they became BFG at that time when they basically filed for insolvency and basically they changed the name of the company and this kind of stuff. And so yeah, I think they've just released what is the name? It's a third person. It's like an older franchise with like an alien invasion. You're controlling these like alien dudes.
Is it cartoony?
A bit cartoony, yeah. It was an old game, and it's a new version of that.
Is it them or something? Yeah, I know it's got a.
I can't recall the name. It's like a very like 50s B movie.
Yeah, that's it. I know what you mean. Yeah.
So yeah, they're still going strong, which is cool for them. But yes, at that time, I obviously wasn't sure, so I started to look around, and I ended up in Abu Dhabi at Ubisoft because my wife's sister actually lives in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, so we had been to visit her. We liked the place. It's like, this could be a cool place to live maybe one day. I'll check if there's any game studios. There weren't any apart from one very small studio, which wasn't hiring anyway. So it's like, okay, I'll keep looking. You never know. And that was obviously a few years before I actually went there. And then it just so happened, my sister-in-law told me, it's like, I think Ubisoft have just opened a studio.
Right,
so it's
amazing.
Like happy days. Like, let's see what happens. So yeah, obviously it worked out. So I think the studio had just been opened like 3 months when I arrived. So I think I was like employee number 13 or something.
Unlucky for some.
Yes, lucky for some. So yes, so at Ubisoft Abu Dhabi, it's a mobile game studio. So I worked on 3 projects there. So the first project we did was a hidden object game based on CSI,
I remember
like the TV series. So it's like CSI Hidden Crimes, and then we followed that up with another CBS franchise, which is NCIS.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Again, based on the TV show. So again, NCIS Hidden Crimes. So again, a hidden object game with some differences as such as what we'd done on CSI.
Can I just ask Jeremy something? It's really interesting for me because I haven't. So I've actually used some of those games in lectures to with regards kind of onboarding or kind of easing the player into levels. Well, not levels, but so that it gives you super clear start objective, and then you're flashing things on the screen to show players where to click. I'm just really interested in how was it really hard moving over from being a level and game designer to suddenly becoming a kind of casual game designer, I suppose?
Yeah, I guess there was. I think for a lot of things, there's like similarities. I guess the main, fundamentals of like game design and level design doesn't really change. I think the main difference to wrap my head around for like mobile games was like all the data tracking and the monetization. You're like required obviously to put certain things in the game where you can sell. So like if you have some energy, so you get to play like a hidden object scene 5 times, or you can play 5 scenes, and then obviously your energy is going to run out. So you can either wait for a number of hours for that energy to refill, or of course you can pay something to get that energy to be refilled instantly, so you can keep on playing. All of those kind of like monetization mechanics.
Cash rich time, Paul.
Exactly.
So that's what they used to tell me on Magic the Gathering. So, we used to have to build it in so that obviously you could eventually grind and get your extra cards or what have you. But at the same time, if you were sort of a big ham-faced millionaire, you can immediately just pop in there and buy all the cards and happy days. But
Yeah.
so we
So
sort
yeah,
of
so that was a challenge. Yeah, I guess like just getting into that side of things, and trying to, as much as you can, trying to do that maybe in a slightly nice way
yeah.
where you don't feel that you're just putting in systems in the game where knowing full well that you're just doing this to make someone pay. Like, I
Yeah.
think me and a few other people in the studio, like, even if they've come from mobile games, it wasn't something what like they were really like happy about as such. There's like there are ways I think where you can do that in better ways than just it's like you can just like if you have thousands of pounds you can just spend it all. But yeah, interesting challenges for sure.
Who
Like
was Candy Crush guys? Who were they again? Is it King?
King.
So I went to the King studio like 5 years ago, and they were just expanding their offices again. But they had the second floor. This is the first time I'd seen this. It was just a store of analytical computers that were just getting data fed in, and then it would calculate the slight changes, and then they would get deals. Well, they would just the software would then be adjusted to take into consideration, and it's like I thought, bloody hell, this is like a whole floor. And it was just two people pottering about on it, and they're just computers basically.
Yes, I think for them I think Candy Crush must have some crazy like algorithms, isn't it? Of I guess maybe with analytics that they're just tracking all that data, and then they can adapt or the algorithm adapts to something to adjust the difficulty of certain levels. And
Tracy,
when I was playing Candy Crush for a time, I started not to enjoy it because you could really feel on certain levels, like it was impossible, almost made it, but you still felt it's like, I couldn't really complete that. Then you repeat that for like 20, 30 times, then just suddenly everything clicks into place. You get this amazing, fantastic score. And it's like, I didn't really do anything that differently here. It's so like it was at some point the game, like, okay, now you should win.
So you'd be pleased to know that Tracy still plays the same level on that perpetually since about 1978. She refused. I keep saying, well, people have developed that love, so you should really be kind of actually probably paying a little bit towards the fact you've been playing the game for 19 years. And she's like, no, I'm not paying anything. You're always going to get players, aren't you, that will just refuse to.
For sure, which I think is the beauty as well, I guess, of like the free-to-play games. That they are free to play. I think even if you don't pay, there is still value. Obviously, if you have like a massive user base who are playing your game like every day, every week, every month. That obviously the data what they provide is obviously still very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously, if some of that stuff is not as big now, but when you could share to Facebook or invite friends, because you have all these users who are doing those things, maybe the users what they bring to the game, they also stick around in the game, and maybe those guys start paying, even if you're not. So you actually introduce someone to the game who starts to pay. So, but obviously, if you don't have the user base, then all of those things may or can't happen. So I guess even if someone's not paying, it's better to have them than not have them, because
absolutely
they still can affect the economy of the game for sure.
What was it? It was 20. What is it, like 60 million or something? People playing Candy Crush or some insanity. So
insane,
you moved over to Düsseldorf, Ubisoft Düsseldorf, so as a senior game designer. Is that correct? Senior game designer?
Yes. So I was at Abu Dhabi for 7 years, give or take, and now at Ubisoft Düsseldorf since January this year.
So you'll move, and obviously you can probably only talk about this ever so slightly, but I do know you've been putting jobs on for VR. So I just wondered are you involved in the VR stuff? Because that's obviously another huge design challenge.
Yes. So I've never really played a VR game before as well. So I had little goals here and there. So again, lots of similarities, lots of your traditional design stuff. But then for VR, I think one of the big things is obviously like the comfort.
Yeah.
Some of the things I'm doing on the project would affect maybe that, or you have to consider that a bit. Obviously, there's other parts of the projects where obviously comfort is like a huge thing. So if your comfort levels in the game are not on point, basically people are just going to be sick. It's like there's a very small degree of
so by comfort,
you'll start to feel motion sickness and dizziness, and
so you mean you don't mean like the amount of time in headset, you just mean the fact that if you adjust the horizon things, you make people puke and
exactly,
right. So
yes. So I think it's probably also a bit down to how long you want to keep the player in the headset for as well. Because I think after so much time, maybe it's maybe just your general comfort.
Yeah.
Lessons. You're like, because in VR, obviously you're moving your arms and your body around. I guess much more than a console game, unless maybe like I guess the closest maybe is like if you're playing with the Wii controllers or the Move controllers on the PlayStation, where you're having a bit more of a body workout. So yeah, you do feel you're like your body is tired because you're moving your limbs around more, or your whole body is moving. But with other parts of the comfort, it's like being cautious of not taking the control of the camera away from the player. Like that's like a big no. You have to be very careful with that. If you start to move the camera independently of where the player is looking or moving, then that's probably going to relate to I don't feel very well now. Also for locomotion, so like the movement of the character, if you have free movement control, just like a third person shooter game, where you can actually freely move, versus like a teleport kind of mechanic, which you can see like Half-Life Alyx. They do like a teleport mechanic, so that helps for lots of people. That's you'll get like a quick blink. And you've teleported. You're within half a second or something.
I turned it off in Alex because that was actually making me really. And I played lots of VR games, but that Alex really confused the living daylights out of me with the teleport, and I turned it off and moved it back to just normal. Yeah, because I kept teleporting into walls, and obviously not into walls, but I'd be standing right next to something, and then it's like I'm trying to. And I'm really used to VR games. I mean, Resident Evil 7 was still my best ever VR game, and I still kept the incremental rotation on that. So so did 30 degrees that time.
I like the incremental rotation as well. But I did keep the teleport on in Alex.
Right. Okay.
I like that. Yeah.
Did you finish it?
I have not finished it. It's very annoying.
What the game?
We have a shared account, so basically I need to buy this game myself.
Right.
Or at the time I didn't know you could play it offline, so we have a shared account for the team, so we can play Steam games. But with it being a shared account, obviously everyone has access to the account and the save games. So basically, I got to chapter 6 or 7, I think, and someone overwrote my save game. So I was very sad.
So Matt worked on that, didn't he? Matt Charlesworth.
It did, yes.
Yeah.
Top fella, yeah.
I didn't. I mean, I've only played I only played a couple of chapters maybe, but I thought it was pretty basic level design. I mean, at one point I was pushing a crate to climb into a window to get onto the crate, and I thought, right, that's the 1970s level design.
Yeah, I guess they have a few. Yeah, you can still see some callbacks to that sort of design, or like you would do a bunch of that, like in the past Half-Life games as well, right?
Yeah.
But they do have some very cool things, like really utilizing VR well. They have like the multi-tool,
Right. Yeah.
where
Yeah.
you interact with little like ports or keys on within the world to bring up this kind of like 3D
Yeah. That's nice. Nice
Minority
puzzle game.
Reports type
Yeah.
of UI, what's floating around like little planets, what you can grab hold of them, rotate on its axis, and
So did you have the
that's
proper
pretty neat.
controllers? Because I'm just using the old Vive. Did you have the new, what is it, the Oculus Galaxy? Is
I
it?
was using Oculus controllers, yeah.
Right, because on the Vive, I mean, I'm trying to reload my gun, and there's a crab head coming to one. I'm like, just it's like my hands are everywhere. And right, anyway, Jamie, look, so I
But the
know that you've got.
Russells are awesome. Like
What are the,
your magical gloves you have in Half-Life Alex.
oh yeah,
Like the
okay.
mechanic for that is really cool.
Uh,
Yeah.
I was going to, because I know you've got to go back to work at 2, so I was going to try and. So, did you learn anything? I'm going to try and run through the questions a bit quicker,
Sure.
Jim. So did you have any sort of any issues with working on a licensed game such as CSI? Because I mean, I worked on an Audi game, and was there a lot of control from the CSI guys? Did they interfere, or were they really helpful?
Yeah, I think there was a process of like sign off. I think for the most part they were pretty good. They didn't really come back too much of like, yeah, you need to tweak the eyeball, or you like the color of that is
Uh,
not quite right. They were um, they were pretty decent actually, but
Good.
there was a sign off, so they had to get sign off from the actors.
Oh, okay.
So I guess the character artist would sketch like a few different versions of the character, not necessarily final, and then they would get sent off, and then they would check them and approve. It's like, I like number 3. It's like, all right, cool. And then
Right.
obviously he would polish that up to more of a final quality. It would get sent back again, and then basically again they would approve it, and then the actor is actually signing that off. It's like, I am happy how that looks.
Okay. Cool.
And then I guess there were some parts in the level design a bit, like how we were setting maybe the scenes, just like if the scenes were appropriate, maybe for the like for the brand and stuff like that. And yeah, just maybe how we represented the characters in the game, and I guess the story.
Right. So
But
who
the
did you?
story was okay because we actually had a writer
Yeah, I was going to say.
who had worked on the show.
Okay. Yeah.
So he was the one who was like writing the bulk of the stories, with input from like the design team in
Correct.
some cases. But yeah, so again, I guess there was just an immediate sign off on that, because obviously they trusted him to know what he was doing. So
it's getting better, isn't it, with regards, because TV and cinema now are recognising that games are much more important now. Because if back in the dark ages, trying to get an actor's head, like if you're trying to get Bruce Willis's head, they've just gone, no, you can't have a likeness of Bruce Willis, forget it. And now you've got Vin Diesel. You did the. It's kind of started moving towards them recognising the fact that obviously we are a valid art form.
yes.
So can I think I have asked you lots of the questions anyway that are on the list just while we've been talking through your career. But can you just? I'm quite interested in. Can you just give us obviously NDA being NDA careful, but can you give us a rundown of what you do on a daily basis it's really for the students? So kind of what you do when you get to work, and then
Sure. I guess at the moment there's quite a lot of meetings, which is obviously not always the best thing when you're trying to actually get real work done.
Right.
Sometimes obviously they're important because you need either like feedback or reviews and all of this kind of stuff, the usual things. We are multi-development project, like studio multi-development project, for like various studios. So as well as Düsseldorf, we have Ubisoft Reflections, a studio in Mumbai, and a studio in the United States. Plus, there's a few people who work with us from Ubisoft Montreal, I think.
Okay.
So obviously, there's like that time difference regarding all the meetings and all that stuff. But I guess like day to day now, it's come to where I'm doing a bit less paper design. So I guess early on you do more like paper design stuff. To
So
get all
paper
the
design,
ideas.
yeah. Do you? I mean,
Proposals.
are you sketching them, or are you writing it out, or are you making little models, or?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I guess not so much models. I guess it's more maybe some very simple like schematic drawings or something. You're like basically just using boxes and circles from PowerPoint or something like that.
Yeah.
Just to give a very basic idea, and then yes, a bit more. Yeah, just text of the idea. At least on this project, they're quite keen, which is a good thing, I think, is not to have too much paper design, actually. So we put all our like design content on Confluence.
Okay.
So basically, everybody can access it easily. We don't like in the past you would put like game design documents and things like that on Perforce.
Yeah.
Which is this like the file tracking system to check out and check in files and all that kind of business, or on some kind of shared drive. But Confluence is pretty good that you can just have everything laid out in a certain structure, and everyone can access it no matter where they're from, even if it's an external studio needs access to that as well. But that design is usually pretty light, and then that design gets a bit more filled in. So when we start to put tasks as such onto Jira, which is like Jira's like a task tracking and bug tracking.
Like Mantis.
Yes, exactly like Mantis. Yes, so that sort of stuff. So yeah, getting back to the question, I guess. So I guess it's in a bit of phases. So I guess early on it was like paper design for like ideas and proposals. They get feedbacked and reviewed, and then I would like my day to day was still doing paper designs to bring them up to a certain level. That's all good.
Do you sign off on other people's design? Because you're a senior designer. Do you sign off on other people's designs, or do you bring other people's junior designs, and bring them all together in one place?
Yeah. So I think early on would be taking other people's designs to sign off on that, or to integrate it into like the main design, and maybe like check some formatting and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But now, like a lot of the paper design stuff is done. So on this project, I'm a product owner. So like on this project, at least, they have a thing, as called product owners. So the product owner will take care of a section or content, a specific like content of the game. So that person is like the go-to person for anything relating to that feature or set of features or system.
Right, excellent.
So I'm the product owner for a certain set of features in the game. So being that, so now I have like a small team, very small team. Just basically, we have a producer who's attached to us, and we had 2 programmers. Now we have 1 programmer. But basically, I, along with the producer and obviously the programmer himself, basically like I will be setting the tasks.
Right. Okay.
What needs to be done, and obviously once that's like features implemented from the programming side, then it's up to me, like my job, to obviously review and give feedback for that and approve it.
Excellent.
From the product owner side, and then that would then get moved on to like a director level. So you're like the game director. would then also approve it. And if he has any changes, then obviously we would make those changes, and then it goes back and forth a little bit, and then it's all signed off, and it's good.
So the juniors, I mean, you know, when I remember back to us and things like the smelly, can't even remember the name of the engine, but you know, we used to sit and we used to create a little test gym, and then we try out mechanics, like we try out grenades, splash damage, and things. And is that kind of what still happens, or?
Yeah, very much so. So yeah, there's a big thing for like this VR project, like with creating gyms. So we're using Unity.
Right.
So yeah, all the various systems and features in the game, there's a gym what's created to test and try out those all of those features at prototype levels and maybe even a bit beyond. So anyone obviously you can just hop in that gym and try these things out.
Right, okay.
So for the set of like features I'm working on, you know, I have a gym where I integrate certain things, like things into that gym in Unity. So again, it's a go-to place for like other team members to check that stuff out, and also again for like the directors, they would go in that gym, try all the stuff out, and basically like give approval on those things or request changes and so forth. And so again, I guess that's been a big part of my day-to-day now, is ensuring that like the gym has the latest like features in it to what we've implemented, and also creating, I guess, like how to kind of documentation on how to use those things, because at some point obviously I'm going to hand off like all of these things are now ready to be used by like the level designers or the mission teams. So we have documentation just so they know how to use them, basically.
So your team is mechanics, basically. You're doing mechanics and you're handling Okay. That's so you've got a VR headset. You sitting in your house. You stick it on.
I do. Yes, I have. Yes, I have two VR headsets, but one I'm not really using too much. So I have basically one what's connected up to my PC, and so I can obviously get into headset.
Is it an Oculus or is it a Vive or?
It's a Rift.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, Oculus Rift.
Right, I'll quickly try and get through because I know you'd almost have to go off and get back to your proper job. So with the greatest respect to your current role, what is your dream job? And I know it's going to be Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Exactly. I don't know. That's a tough one. Actually, when I saw that question, it's like, am I in my dream job? Games are pretty cool, right? It's like, of course, as you've been in the industry for a while, it's like, games, at some point, obviously you start to, I think for me anyway, like I still play games, of course, but I play less games for sure than I used to. I think that's just maybe normal to a point, even though I do see some people like Steve Pritchard who's like playing games like constantly non-stop. It's like, how do you get the time to play these games?
He's between jobs and he's what do you call it? Can't sleep. Insomniac.
Yeah.
I said it to him. I said to him the other week. I said, "How do you get that many hours?" He's like, "Well," he says, "I've got another 8 hours every night where to sleep." He's just sitting like a zombie.
Yeah. So, but I think I would. Yeah. Apart from games, I don't know. Like for myself, I didn't go to college or university. Like I said, from school, I went straight into a job at Core Design. But if I was to do something like that, I would have liked to, be involved in the film industry. Obviously from in hindsight now, I think that would have been cool. Again, the film industry obviously has all its horribleness as well, like the game industry, for like crazy working hours and all this other stuff. But at the same time, yes, obviously, if you could have made Raiders of the Lost Ark, happy days.
But I think our dream job would be if you could get the Raiders of the Lost Ark license, and then you could hire me to come and we could just be a 2-man team making a Raiders of the Lost Ark game. Make it so, please,
that
Jamie.
would be amazing. I did mention that to someone as well. With just, I mean, any kind of new Indiana Jones game. It's like, why are they not doing a new Indiana Jones game? It's crazy.
No, this is,
but Indiana Jones VR.
Oh,
that'd be awesome.
Right, I'll tell you what I'll do, Jeremy. I'll end. Thank you so much for your time. But what I will do is, before I say that, I said it too quickly. Is can you just, because this is sort of for the students? So, do you have any kind of advice, generally for students getting into the industry as designers or into Ubisoft, or because I know you have your graduate scheme at Ubisoft, but do you have any little tips or anything you can share?
Yeah, I would say, of course, obviously be interested and obviously play lots of games on various formats as well. Like, if you can. So, obviously play console games, play PC games, play mobile games, play VR games. Like, mobile games for a lot of people are seen as like an inferior game, but they still have their place. I think actually the mobile game industry is bigger than the console game. So it's not to be kind of like looked down upon or sniffed at.
It's
actually
a broader audience as well.
Yeah.
It's more female users.
Exactly, huge audience. So I think just obviously playing as much stuff as you can, and if you can start to look at those things, I guess, a bit analytically, that you can kind of see like how they're doing certain things. I guess that's really helpful, that you play it for enjoyment, but you can also try to see how they're achieving certain things. I think is good, even if you make little notes or just kind of remember that stuff.
Yeah.
I think for me, obviously when I started, it was good that I got opportunity to use some like editors or engines we had at Core Design when I was in QA. And then what led me on to being involved, with Tomb Raider 3 as my first level design job was because I was in my spare time at work, because sometimes in QA you have like downtime where you're not doing too much. So rather than just sitting around doing nothing, I would use the Tomb Raider editor to build little rooms or little levels. So I think that's also a really important thing, that get your hands on engines or editing software, and just use that stuff and get good at it. I think there's probably a lot now. I know very little about Unity, even if I'm using it pretty much day to day. I had to kind of relearn it. I knew a little bit about it before, but I haven't used it for many years. So I think, if you know like Unity, Unreal, any of the major engines or software, already you're going to be like so much like higher up than on the list of potential candidates from other people, even people who are actually in the industry, because maybe they may have been at studios who didn't need to use Unity, one of these big proprietary engines, and they may have not had time, obviously, in their personal life to use that as well. So if you're coming in, for many studios are now using those kind of engines, it's like, I know everything about Unity. Then that's obviously like a massive like foot in the door, I would say.
It's great, because we do teach both of those. So I'm kind of I'll teach the first year's Unreal now, because it's a bit more glossy and tasty and beautiful looking, so they can all try and make Cyberpunk 2077 with one person in the first year, and then once they realise that's not happening, then they move over to Unity. So okay, mate, that's fantastic. So thanks very much, Jamie. I'll just say thanks, and hopefully we might get you over to Britain at some point, and you can come and visit everybody. What I will do is I'll just stop recording, so I'll say thank you.